and welcome again to JJ Table Talk. What do I have to say? Over the past week, I've been spending time watching the old movies, movies like the James Bond series, The Transporter, Indiana Jones, Braveheart, and for the children, I shared with them watching Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. When I watched these movies, two concepts crept into my mind. What do you think it could be? When I watched these movies, I saw bravery, I saw courage. What do these two concepts define? As you watch movies, do you think about this? Well, I do think about this sometimes, and it's the two concepts, bravery and courage. They kind of look similar, but it's not the same. Okay, what is bravery? When I watch these movies again, and the action they shared in those movies, I saw that bravery is like the quality or the state of having or showing that mental or moral strength to face danger, fear, and difficulty. For example, a brave person here would show that he can face all the physical risks and endure difficulties and painful situations. So that's what the heroes in the movies depict. But on a normal circumstances, when I talk about brave person, what comes to my mind is the firefighter. The firefighter is somebody who risks his life or her life to protect others and to get into a risky situation to save others. So that's a typical brave person. And another thing that comes to my mind when I talk about a brave person is, I went to a zoo farm once, and wow, I was so scared when I saw the crocodile trainer put his head into the mouth of the crocodile. I could only spend a few seconds there because I couldn't have the patience or the courage. I use that word, courage. And I share with you what courage means, because you have to be brave to do that, right? And also I've seen in areas when you go to the circus and you find all these animal trainers. I think they are brave people having to risk their life to be in circumstances with wild animals. Like, for example, I saw a video clip of a snake charmer who slept in a cage full of snakes, and he spent 24 hours inside there. I don't know how he did it, but that to me is an example of a brave person. Just like those animal trainers, and you see in playing with dolphins and orca, they look like safe creatures, but I've heard on the news of how trainers have been killed by orca. So, but whatever they did to me, those are examples of being a brave person. All right, so that's bravery for some kind of understanding of that definition. What about courage? Courage, according to Professor Daniel Putman, he says that this involves deliberate choice to face painful or fearful consequences, meaning that there is a close connection between fear and confidence. Some people say that physical courage is bravery. To some extent, yes, because it involves some kind of a physical pain, a hardship, even threat of death. But courage, as I see it, is that ability to act rightly in the face of whatever the consequences. Could be shame, it could be scandal, it could be even discouragement or loss of life, personal loss. That is courage. And we have seen in social media, we have heard from news of how people have shown acts of courage in their lives. And I guess for me, because I have read some news, and one clear example that I can share with you is the case of a heroic act by a young lady by the name of Nija Barriot. It was somewhere in 1986, and this was during the Pan Am Flight 73, and Nirja was in that flight which was hijacked in Karachi. Nirja helped numerous passengers escape by opening an emergency exit, though she could have stayed and rescue herself, but she did not. She stayed on to save many others and guided them to safety. Unfortunately, tragically, so to say, she was shot by the hijackers, and she was killed when she was shielding 3 children on that flight itself. And I think she is the youngest posthumously awarded the Ashoka Chakra, an award given somewhere in India for, it's the highest award for bravery and courage. It's an honor. And also another act of courage that I remembered watching the news was the incident, the famous incident of the Thai cave rescuers. It happened in I think it was 2018, when, what was it? This was a soccer team of young boys, and their coach, they were trapped in a flooded cave. And I watched this on the news. An international team of courageous people just came together, rescuers. They launched, I think it was a daring mission. And despite all the dangerous conditions and impossible odds, they safely brought back those boys, I think about all 13 of them with their coach, back to safety. And it was indeed a miracle. And what the newscaster related on the news, that this really is an act of both bravery and teamwork plus courage. Okay. And then there was another incident that happened somewhere in 2020. There was a fire in California. I was in the Creek Fire helicopter crew. This was reported in the news again during one of the California's largest wildfires that happened. A team of California Army National Guards, and they were actually a crew, and they went off in the helicopter to rescue more than 200 people trapped by the blaze, you know, and it was done in a single night. It can be considered as a really apocalyptic condition, because imagine it's wildfire, and people were trapped down there. But the crew, they stayed on in the mission, and they carried out the mission even though they knew the risks encountered, facing the danger and they knew that the helicopter itself was not designed to do this, but they relentlessly managed to save more than 200 people in that wildfire. So these are all acts of, you can call it together, bravery and courage. All right? So when you talked about all these things, you know, in everyday life, we can also have acts of bravery. For example, when you stand up for your beliefs, you stand up for your rights, this is an act of bravery, because you believe in something, and even though you were against the odds, you're willing to stand up for these beliefs. And this is a brave act itself, although you know that the consequence or the impact could be, well, harsh, but it is a humbling act of bravery. And sometimes you see when you are being punished, or you're being scolded, or you're being reprimanded, and you would not succumb to the threat. That is a brave act on your own self. So that is an everyday act of, shall I say, bravery. Okay, and I guess when you come to talk about courage, we see a lot of this, both bravery and courage in sports. And we have big names, really, really big names in the sports world. Example like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is one, he's so famous, and if you don't know him, you better go and read out about him. He was one of those influential sports figure until today. And who else? Of course, the greatest of all, Muhammad Ali. Who doesn't know Muhammad Ali? And he is a legend. He is both brave and he has courage. He even has courage to stand up for his beliefs when he was risking a lot of hardship in his life. To the end of his life, he stood firm by his beliefs. And also we have Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson is another famous civil rights icon, and he is also a famous baseball talent. And who doesn't know Billie Jean King? Billie Jean King is one person I admired. She is a renowned tennis player, an activist also, and you could see that she stood for her beliefs and significant contributions to social justice and equality. That is Billie Jean King. And not to talk about our own national heroes, we have, of course, our Datuk Nico David, an icon herself, and I think she has that spirit of Malaysia Boleh, not only for this country, but she stood internationally. As proud as she is, she's the greatest athlete that the country has ever seen. And I think she was awarded and recognized in 2021. Of course, there's also another track hero, Azizul Hasni Awang. He's, of course, if you know him, he's a track cyclist. And of course, nobody else cannot forget this hero, act of bravery and courage. Dato' Lee Chong Wei, our badminton legend. And then we have another one, which is Pandalela Rino. And imagine this young girl with her talent. She swept lots of accolades for the nation in the diving events. And I on a personal level, I remembered this is football. I remembered I was still young at that time. We went to Merdeka Stadium, and it was the soccer match between Malaysia and South Korea. Nobody, South Korea was a giant then in the football field, and Malaysia was just becoming to be known in the world. But when we won the match, when Malaysia won the match over South Korea, wow, the whole stadium stood out and tears could be seen from everybody's eyes, in the sense that the famous team, So Ching An, Mokhtar Dahari, Santok Singh, and the famous Arumugam, the famous team that we had in football, that I personally was so proud to see they stood tall, and having won that match was something that the nation had never seen. The happiest moments in the soccer arena. And we talk about bravery and courage, we must not forget our, shall I say, our national heroes who fought against the colonial powers. We shouldn't forget people like Mat Kilau, famous Datuk Bahaman, Tok Gajah, what else? Tok Janggut, Raja Mahadi. These are national heroes who fought and died for the nation, defending the country against colonial powers. All these are acts of bravery and courage. Well, friends, that's a little bit of sharing on my part of basically when we talk about bravery and courage, it is on that level whereby you don't only show that mental strength that you have as an individual, but you have a goal to be achieved. And those people who demonstrated both bravery and courage, we owe them a lot. Okay, and now as I come to the end of the session talking about bravery and courage, I would remember this Disney movie, The Beauty and the Beast. And when I talk with the young ones nowadays, I remember how the song ended, Beauty and the Beast. All right, now JJ signing off. See you next time. Bye.